Hi guys, I'm Louise and I'm an artist. I get way too little art practice time nowadays, like real, focused, dedicated painting practice with no pressure or distraction and no need to post an Instagram post about it or make a video about it, but just actual old school painting practice. I don't know if you feel that way too. I bet maybe you do. Very few of us probably feel like we have all the time we need to practice and make art, even as full-time artists. Why is that? My theory is that it has less to do with actual time restraints and more to do with the psychological side. Feeling distracted, tired, stressed out, not inspired, etc. In my case, I'm extremely lucky to be able to do this full-time, and theoretically, I have all the time I need to make a daily painting practice a reality. So if even I can't make that happen, I can't imagine what people with kids and a full-time job go through. With that said, I do believe most of us have the ability to, with a few scheduling tricks and mindset shifts, carve out at least some time for a daily or weekly art practice. And in this video, I'll talk about how I am tackling this challenge right now and my best tips for making daily painting a reality for you too. Let's start with the obvious first step, and that is to make art a priority in your life. If we don't feel like something is important and deeply meaningful to us, we're not going to prioritize and make time for it. Now, your reason for prioritizing art might be different from mine or someone else's. Only you can figure out your why and your reason for wanting to make more time for art in your life. The second step will be figuring out an ideal time to practice and starting really small. This will take experimentation. A year ago, before I had started my business and this channel, I found that evenings after dinner worked best for me. I was obsessed with improving my art at the time. I still had lots of energy left, and there was nothing else I wanted to do with my evenings. But nowadays, after a full day of script writing, filming, or editing, I'm exhausted, and what I need is to wind down with video games, TV shows, or reading a novel. So now I'm experimenting with doing my art practice first thing in the morning, before I get sucked into the day's to-do list. And the trick is to start really super small, to essentially just give yourself permission to start without any obligations to make it an hour or to finish a painting or anything like that. Give yourself 10 to 20 minutes in the morning or evening. Make it as unintimidating as possible. Maybe you're just going to look for a reference photo or start the sketch or select your colors. Just take the next little bite-sized step forward. Because what will likely happen is that once you're sitting there, you'll get absorbed into it and you'll get inspired and energized. You'll want to keep going for longer than those planned 10 minutes. Whereas scheduling an hour for it might have felt insurmountable and overwhelming. We feel a certain way about an activity when we're not warmed up to it, and a completely different way when we're in the middle of it. It's the same with exercise. We might dread it, but then when we're doing it, it feels great. And that's when the motivation and the energy kicks in. That's how inspiration works too, most of the time. It shows up when we're doing the activity, not before. So our goal is not to paint for an hour each day. It's only to get ourselves to pick up the paintbrush each day. And look, if daily painting just isn't possible for you right now, work with what you have. Maybe start with once a week and make that a habit first, and then you can gradually increase your time per week. The next step is to set goals for your practice and create a plan for how you're going to practice. This, for me, is so important. We can't just say to ourselves that we want to get better at art. That's way too vague. What does getting better look like to you? What are you actually trying to accomplish with your daily practice? This can be a bit difficult to put into words as an artist, especially as a beginner when we don't yet have the vocabulary for it. When I just started out, all I had was a handful of artists whom I really looked up to and wanted to learn from. I had no idea how they did what they did or even what mediums they used. I just knew that that was what I was aiming for, and I started researching everything I could find out about these artists. I learned about their favorite tools and methods, their role models and inspirations, and in the process I found other artists to be inspired by. I connected the dots, I saw the similarities between these favorite artists, and I learned to put into words what exactly it was about their art that inspired me, which made it easier to do Google and YouTube searches for tutorials or speed paints that could show me the actual process of it. I have a wish list of skills, mediums, and subjects that I want to practice and get better at. This list changes all the time, and I'm constantly switching my focus and motivation for these items around, but having a list makes it easier for me to sit down and have a goal with my practice. For example, one of my wish list items is to get better at watercolor portraits. I have a bunch of role models and inspirations for this particular skill, and I have a YouTube playlist with some great videos that show me a bunch of different ways to do watercolor portraits. So when I decide to practice my watercolor portraits, I sit down and I look at some inspiration to get into the right headspace. I bring up one of the tutorial videos or speed paints to sort of remind myself of the process of it. And then I grab a reference from one of my Pinterest boards, which I have bookmarked right there in my browser for quick access. And I make an attempt. And then I evaluate that attempt and I try again. This is called deliberate practice. Practicing to improve as efficiently and quickly as possible, as opposed to just doing and letting the rest take care of itself. I do believe that a lot of your improving will come from just doing, but if you want to greatly speed up your learning process and minimize frustration, you need to practice deliberately. And for me, that means having goals and a structure for my practice. If I were to just pull up a sheet of watercolor paper and start painting without a clear goal, without guidance, I would probably mess it up and feel really frustrated and feel like I have wasted precious art supplies and just want to give up. Especially if I'm comparing myself to my role models without trying to analyze their process. In my deliberate practice, I will probably also mess it up, but I will know why and when and how I messed up. And that is what makes failure into valuable feedback instead of just defeat. When I fail in my deliberate practice, I actually get excited. I get more motivation to try again because I can see what I did wrong and what I can do differently the next time. That's why having goals and a practice plan is so important to me and why I recommend that you have it as well. And my fourth and final tip is to track your progress and to reflect on it. How do you track your progress as an artist? The first step is to continually document all of your art. For me, that means hanging up everything that I make on the wall in my studio. Because just seeing my pieces around me reminds me that I am practicing and I am producing art, and that's what's important to me, not how good looking that art is or how many has liked it online. And it also means photographing my work and filing it chronologically. Yes, Instagram can do this for you, but you know how I feel about Instagram. It has some very large drawbacks, so please don't rely solely on Instagram to keep your memories and progress and portfolio safe. Please have a backup system of your own. And that can be just a folder in your phone's camera roll, or it can be an Evernote notebook, or just a folder on your computer. I have previously used the journaling app Day One for this as well, where I took photos of everything I made, however much I hated it, and I posted it in my art journal with a few reflections on what went right and wrong. It wasn't to show anyone, it was just for me, which took all of the pressure off of it. It's so easy to lose track and to just be stuck in perpetual disapproval of ourselves, comparing ourselves to others and constantly feeling not good enough, even though we might have improved so much in just a few weeks or months. We need to zoom out sometimes and get some perspective on ourselves and our progress. That's when we can realize that, Yes, I'm not anywhere near where I want to be. I still have a lot of work to do. But hey, look at what I made today compared to what I made last month. I'm making great progress, and maybe I shouldn't compare myself to people who have done this professionally for over 10 years. This is the type of realization that I can only get when I take a step back, take a deep breath, and reflect on my progress. And in order to do that, I need to have first tracked my progress. So track your progress, and then look back on your progress and ask yourself, what do I like about what I'm doing, and what do I don't like, and what do I want to get better at, or want to experiment with or explore. Sometimes I just think about it, and sometimes I journal to get clearer about where I am in my artistic journey, how I feel, and where I want to go. I do this especially when I feel overwhelmed or lots of negativity, to calm myself down and get into the right headspace. I practice gratitude for being able to do this, and I remind myself why I do this and how far I've come. Journaling keeps me sane and motivated and in contact with my best self. It's probably my #1 tool for personal growth. I wouldn't survive without it. And that's a video in and of itself that I might make one day. Let me know in the comments if you want a video about journaling and why it's awesome and how to do it. But yeah, those are my 4 tips. The steps that I am taking right now to improve as an artist, and I hope that they can help you do the same. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up to let the algorithm know and to help me reach more people. I appreciate all the help and support that I can get. And if you want some extra help and support and you're thinking about getting started with watercolors, check out my free mini course called Kickstart Your Watercolor Practice. In it, I share not only how to practically set up your watercolor painting studio, but also how to practice and set goals and improve and all of the things that I've talked about in this video. It's free, and you can find the link to it in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.